She faked her best friend's death, claimed her identity, but one slip ruined it all. I didn't know the truth until I saw my little girl in the kitchen, trembling under the threat of the woman I thought was my wife. I remember the moment like it happened 5 minutes ago. It was a late morning in Austin. The air was thick with that sticky heat you can't escape in Texas once May rolls around. My daughter Kira was in the kitchen, standing on tiptoes, clutching a mop handle that looked almost taller than she was. Her small arms shook, her dark hair clung to her damp forehead, and her wide eyes darted to the woman standing over her, the woman in the red day dress, the woman Kira had been calling Mom. Her voice cut through the air, sharp and cruel. "Wipe the floor right, or Daddy learns what happened by the lake." Kira froze. I froze. Because the real Maya, my wife, never spoke to our daughter like that. Never. And then there was the bracelet. The silver charm bracelet dangled from the woman's wrist, catching the morning sun. Maya never wore jewelry while cleaning. She always said it got in the way. Seeing that bracelet was like watching a crack split open in the middle of my life. That tiny detail nearly knocked the air out of me. Have you ever noticed one small thing, a voice, a gesture, a habit, that made you realize something wasn't right? Comment the clue you'd never ignore. The sound of sirens screamed down our street just then, echoing off the houses. Fire truck? Maybe an ambulance rushing past our neighborhood. For a split second, the woman in the red dress stiffened. Her grip on the counter turned her knuckles white. And then she whispered, almost to herself, "Not today." The words were soft, but I heard them clear as day. Not today. Not today for what? For who? I stood there, holding my breath, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. But inside my chest, my heart was pounding so hard it felt like my ribs would snap. That was the exact second my life split into two. The life I thought I had, and the nightmare I didn't know was living under my roof. I should probably tell you who I am. My name is Cole Bennett. For most of my life, I thought I had it figured out. I ran a small but steady design shop near South Congress. My wife Maya was a pediatric nurse, the kind of woman everybody trusted, the kind of woman who left an impression everywhere she went. And our daughter Kiara was 6, full of questions, her smile bright enough to make a bad day better. We weren't rich, but we had love. And for a long time, I thought love was enough. But on that morning in the kitchen, staring at the bracelet on the wrong wrist, I realized I had no idea who I was living with anymore. I kept my eyes on Kiara. She looked so small, so fragile, her hands gripping that mop. She whispered, "I'm trying, Mommy," her voice breaking. But that wasn't her mommy. That wasn't Maya. And the longer I stared, the clearer it became this wasn't just stress. This wasn't just grief twisting someone into a stranger. This was something else. This was a lie. If you were standing in your own kitchen and saw something that told you your partner wasn't who they claimed to be, would you confront them right there or keep quiet and watch? Tell me in the comments. The woman finally stepped back, forcing a smile when she saw me standing there. "Oh, Cole," she said sweetly. "Kira's just helping me out. You know how kids need chores to stay disciplined." Disciplined? Maya never talked that way. She always said Kira was a child, not a soldier. I nodded slowly, but my chest was on fire. My eyes drifted back to the bracelet again, that shining silver charm that didn't belong. I wish I could say I acted fast. I didn't. I stood frozen, watching my daughter mop the floor in fear, while the woman who looked like my wife pretended everything was fine. And in that moment, something inside me cracked wide open. I knew I had to start paying closer attention. I knew I had to notice every detail, every inconsistency, every slip. Because the woman standing in my kitchen wasn't just someone having a bad day. She was hiding something. And if I didn't figure it out soon, my little girl was gonna pay the price. I'll admit something to you now. Back then, I didn't believe in gut instincts. I thought life was all about facts, about what you could prove. But when I saw my daughter's trembling hands and that wrong bracelet, my gut screamed louder than anything else. Something was off. Something was dangerous. And I couldn't ignore it anymore. The sirens faded. The house fell quiet again. The woman turned back to the counter, humming to herself. But even her humming was wrong. Maya always hummed softly, some Counting Crows riff she loved since college. This was a tune I'd never heard before. Every bone in my body told me the same thing. This wasn't Maya. And yet, Kira still called her mom. Neighbors still waved when she walked outside. Everyone still believed. Everyone but me. I looked at my daughter and silently promised her something. I will not let this woman break you. I will find the truth, no matter what it takes. But I had no idea then just how deep the deception ran. No idea what had already happened by the lake. And no idea that the woman in the red dress, the one wearing my wife's smile, hadn't just stolen Maya's place in our home. She'd stolen Maya's life. She faked her best friend's death, claimed her identity, but one slip ruined it all. And if something like that happened in your own town, wouldn't you want to know the truth before it was too late? Subscribe to Heat Stories right now because the next twist may hit closer than you think.
When I look back now, I realize the story didn't start in that kitchen. It started years earlier, far away from Austin, in a small Ohio town where two girls grew up like sisters. One was Maya Brooks, the woman I fell in love with, the woman everyone admired. The other was Karen Holt, the girl who claimed to be Maya's best friend. Maya used to tell me stories about their childhood. Sunday school classes, walking home from AP English, late-night milkshakes at a diner on the corner of 5th and Main. Everyone thought they were inseparable. But here's what I noticed, even in those old stories. Whenever Maya's name lit up the room, Taryn's smile seemed to dim. Back then, Maya never saw it. She thought Taryn's silence was shyness, not envy. But that envy followed them everywhere. Years later, when Maya left Dayton for the University of Texas at Austin, Taryn stayed behind. She claimed she couldn't afford out-of-state tuition, but a year later, she transferred, straight to UT Austin, right into Maya's orbit again. Maya didn't question it. She was excited. She's like family, she told me. She needs me. That's who Maya was, always pulling people in, always giving them a place to belong. People always say tragedy strikes without warning. But looking back, I can see the warning signs. I just didn't understand them at the time. The day Maya disappeared was supposed to be ordinary. Just another nurse retreat at Lake Travis. Just another weekend apart. But it became the day that split my life into before and after. The morning began with laughter. Maya bustled around the kitchen, tossing snacks into a tote bag. Kiara clung to her leg, whining, "Don't go, Mommy." Maya knelt, kissed her cheek, and whispered, "2 nights, baby girl. I'll be back before you know it." I leaned against the counter, coffee in hand, soaking her in. Her hair pulled back, her smile soft but tired. She was my anchor, my reason, and I had no idea I'd never see her walk back through that door. At noon, she left with Taryn. They loaded a cooler, folding chairs, and bags into the SUV. Nurses laughed, waved, and caravanned out of our neighborhood. I kissed her one more time and told her to drive safe. That was the last moment I saw her alive. Or so I thought. Hours later, my phone rang. I answered, expecting a casual check-in. Instead, I heard screams. It was Taryn. "Cole, she's gone! Maya, she slipped! Oh my God, she's gone!" I froze. "What are you talking about?" Her words tumbled out, broken by sobs. "The rocks were wet. She slipped into the water. I tried. I couldn't reach her. She's gone." I gripped the counter so hard my hand went numb. No, that's impossible," I whispered. But deep down, my gut twisted. Something about her voice didn't sound like panic. It sounded like performance.
Grief is supposed to fade with time. That's what people told me. It'll get easier, Cole. Just keep going. But in my house, grief didn't fade. It morphed. It changed shape. And before I realized it, grief had opened the door for something far more dangerous. At first, it was the paperwork. School registration, insurance forms, doctor visits. "Don't worry, Cole," Taryn would say. "I'll sign for Maya. It's just to avoid confusion." She wrote it so casually. Maya Holt Bennett. The letters flowed across the page like she'd been practicing for years. I didn't argue. My hands shook too much to fill out forms anyway. Then it was the routines. Kira's lunchbox packed a little differently, notes in her backpack signed Mom. Even bedtime kisses felt staged, rehearsed. One night, I stood outside Kira's door and listened as Taryn hummed her to sleep. But the notes were wrong. Maya always hummed Mr. Jones by Counting Crows. Off-key, a little silly, but ours. This tune was different, flat, unfamiliar. And Kira noticed too. "Daddy," she whispered to me the next morning, "Mommy forgot the song." Would you notice if someone close to you slipped on a detail, like a song or a habit? Or would it pass you by? Tell me in the comments. The slips didn't stop there. At the HEB checkout line, a nurse from Dell Children's spotted us. She smiled warmly at Maya. "How's little Ethan doing? I heard he was discharged last week." For a moment, I froze. Ethan was one of Maya's patients. Without missing a beat, Taryn answered, "He's doing so much better. Loves Legos, remember? His mom said he wants to build a rocket next." The nurse's smile grew. "That's wonderful. You were his favorite nurse." I forced a nod, but inside my stomach turned. How did she know that? Later that night, while searching for Kira's missing toy, I found it. Maya's journal, hidden under a pile of laundry in the guest room. Pages marked with sticky notes. Details about patients, personal memories, favorite songs, meals, bedtime rituals. Taryn wasn't just guessing. She was studying. That's when the paranoia set in. I began watching her more closely. The way she carried herself in public, the way neighbors greeted her without suspicion, the way she twirled her hair exactly like Maya used to. She wasn't just pretending to help. She was rehearsing a role. And the worst part? People believed it. One evening at the pharmacy, I watched her correct the clerk. "Blood type A+, please note it," she said confidently while picking up a refill. I froze. Maya's blood type was O negative. Why would she change it? When I asked later, she brushed it off with a laugh. Must have been a mistake in the records. Happens all the time. But deep down, I knew it wasn't a mistake. It was a rewrite. If someone was slowly rewriting the details of a loved one's life, would you call them out or play along to see how far they'd go? Comment below. Kira felt it too. She grew quieter. Sometimes she'd sit in her room clutching her stuffed bear, staring at the floor. "Daddy," she whispered one night, "Mommy smells different now." I didn't know how to answer her, because she was right. Maya had always worn a soft vanilla perfume. Now it was sandalwood, Taryn scent. But how do you explain to a child that the person she thinks is her mother isn't who she believes? Then came the discovery that broke me. Kira was playing in her room when she shouted for me. "Daddy, look what I found." In her hands was an old Polaroid. At first, it looked like one of those throwaway snapshots you forget about. But then my eyes focused. It was Maya, alive. Her hair wet, her face pale, eyes wide, like she'd been caught mid-scream. And behind her, a shadow. The photo was dated 2 days after the accident. 2 days. I felt the blood drain from my face. Where had this photo come from? Why was it hidden in Kira's toy bin? And who took it? I tried to stay calm for Kira's sake. I slipped the photo into a book, kissed her forehead, and told her to keep it safe. But downstairs, when Taryn called out, "Kira, bring me the bracelet," my blood ran cold. Because I realized something in that moment. She wasn't just pretending to be Maya. She was collecting the pieces of her life, one by one, until there was nothing left of the woman I loved. The bracelet, the blood type, the lullaby, the Polaroid. Each slip was a crack in the mask, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the mask shattered completely. But I couldn't have guessed where the next crack would appear. At an ER under bright lights, where a simple blood test would expose everything. She studied Maya's journal, wore her perfume, even sang the wrong song. And now, one mistake at the hospital was about to change everything. Subscribe to Heat Stories right now, because Chapter 5 reveals the night the mask finally slipped under the harshest light of all.
Some truths don't reveal themselves in dark corners or whispered threats. Sometimes they explode under the brightest lights. For me, that truth came in an ER, with fluorescent bulbs humming above, monitors beeping in the distance, and my daughter clutching her scraped arm. That night, the mask slipped. It happened after a playground fall. Kira had been running across the play structures a peace pack, her laughter carrying across the grass, when she tripped and landed hard on her arm. She cried out in pain, clutching her elbow. I rushed to her side, heart pounding. "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll get you checked out." Taryn was already there, brushing dirt from Kira's knees, smiling too sweetly for the situation. "She's fine, Cole, just a scrape." But the way Kira whimpered told me it was more, so I bundled her into the car and drove straight to St. David's ER. The waiting room smelled of antiseptic and burnt coffee. Nurses bustled past, triaging patients, calling names. Kira pressed against me, pale and quiet. When they called us back, the intake nurse smiled at Maya. "Mrs. Bennett, we'll just update your chart while we look at your daughter's arm." Taryn nodded, her voice calm, too calm. They checked Kira in, pulled up the family's synced profile, and began routine questions. Allergies, vaccinations, blood type. And then it happened. The nurse frowned at her tablet. "Huh, that's strange." "What is it?" I asked. She glanced between us. "It says here Mom is A+, but Kira's birth records list O- for maternal blood type. That can't both be right." I froze. My stomach dropped. Because I knew the truth. Maya was O-, always had been. But Taryn leaned in without missing a beat. "Oh, must be a clerical error. I'm definitely A+. Been that way all my life." The nurse shrugged, typing a note. But my world tilted on its axis. If you were sitting in that ER and heard someone claim the wrong blood type for your spouse, would you speak up or stay silent to gather more proof? Tell me in the comments. The doctor came in, checked Kira's arm, and ordered an x-ray. Thankfully, it was just a sprain, nothing broken. But my mind wasn't on the x-ray. It was on that chart. A+, O-. The woman beside me wasn't my wife. And the terrifying part? She was so good at lying, even trained medical staff didn't question her twice. As we walked back to the car, Kira dozed against my shoulder. Taryn chatted about what we should make for dinner. Her tone was light, almost cheerful, like she hadn't just tripped over the most basic detail of Maya's life. But I caught her glancing at me once, eyes sharp, calculating. She knew she'd slipped, and she knew I knew it too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, the Polaroid photo hidden in my wallet, the words A+ and O- burned into my brain. I kept asking myself, how long could she keep this up? How long until everyone else saw what I saw? I needed help, someone who wouldn't think I was crazy. That's when Detective Rosa Alvarez came back into the picture. Detective Alvarez had been assigned to Maya's drowning case months earlier, but with no body, no evidence, the file had gone cold. I emailed her that night, attaching the ER records and a photo of the Polaroid. Her reply came faster than I expected. "Meet me tomorrow. Don't bring her. Alvarez." We met at a coffee shop on Airport Boulevard, one of those with chipped tables and espresso machines that huff like old trucks. Detective Alvarez sat across from me, black hair pulled back, eyes sharp and steady. "You think she's not your wife," she said flatly. I nodded, My throat was dry. She's not. She's Maya's friend, Taryn Holt. She's been pretending ever since the lake. Alvarez studied me for a long moment, then slid a file across the table. I started digging after you emailed. Found something in Dayton records. 5 years ago, Taryn legally changed her middle name to match Maya's, close enough to slip through casual ID checks. I stared at the papers. So she planned this. Planned it or fantasized about it. Either way, it means she's been building this identity for years. Do you think someone could really plan an identity takeover years in advance? Or is obsession gone too far? Drop your thoughts below. Before I could respond, Alvarez pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. Trail cam, Barton Creek Greenbelt, taken the week after your wife's memorial. The image was grainy, shadows stretching across the frame, but the figure was unmistakable. A woman in a hoodie carrying a cooler, head turned slightly toward the camera. And even in the blur, the way she walked, the swing of her arms, the tilt of her head, looked like Maya. Alive. My breath caught. If Maya had been alive after the lake, then why hadn't she come home? Where had she gone? And who was she with? The blood type mismatch had cracked the mask, but the trail cam image? That shattered everything. Because if Maya had walked away from the lake alive, then the nightmare living in my home wasn't just a fraud. It was a cover-up. A wrong blood type, a hidden Polaroid, a trail cam photo of a woman who shouldn't exist. The deeper we dig, the darker it gets. Subscribe to Heat Stories right now because Chapter 6 takes us to the night when all masks break under fireworks.
There are nights when the world feels too loud. Fireworks crack the sky, neighbors laugh over barbecue, kids run wild with sparklers. But even in all that chaos, secrets have a way of exploding louder than any firecracker. That night, July 4th in Austin, was when the mask finally broke. The whole block had gathered outside, families lined folding tables with hot dogs, brisket, potato salad, and pies, flags draped from porches, music thumped from a Bluetooth speaker. Kids zipped past on scooters, chalking stars and stripes across the sidewalk. I stood near the grill, pretending to flip burgers, but inside, I was boiling. In my pocket was the flash drive Alvarez had helped me prepare. The truth, every slip, every lie, compiled into one slideshow. Tonight, everyone would see. Taryn was the star of the evening. She wore a white sundress, a red scarf tied loosely at her neck, the picture of festive charm. She laughed too loudly, hugged too tightly, made sure everyone noticed her. When she raised her glass and toasted, "To new beginnings!" the crowd cheered. But I noticed Kira clutching my hand, her little fingers digging into my palm. She didn't cheer. She stared at Taryn like a child who already knew the truth. Would you have exposed her in public or kept gathering private proof? Comment what you'd do. When dusk settled and fireflies danced through the yard, I plugged the flash drive into the projector. "I want to share something for Maya," I said, my voice carrying over the chatter. The crowd quieted. Even Taryn smiled, clasping her hands like she expected a romantic tribute. The screen flickered to life. First came the ring cam audio, Maya's voice at the door laughing with Kira, and then a second clip, the same door, months later, with Taryn speaking in that flat tone, humming the wrong lullaby. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Next came the ER registration slip, highlighted in red, maternal blood type, A+. Then another slide, Kira's birth record, maternal blood type, O-. People began murmuring. Eyes shifted toward Taryn. She shifted on her feet, her smile faltering. Then came the traffic cam still, the SUV leaving Lake Travis, 2 silhouettes inside. Neighbors covered their mouths. Pastor Green stepped back. And finally, the nail in the coffin, a recording of Karen on the phone ordering a replacement birth certificate, her voice caught on tape saying, "This is Tara Holt." Not Maya. Tara. The yard fell silent except for the hiss of sparklers. Kira pressed closer to me, trembling. Taryn's face drained of color. She stammered. But before she could finish, Detective Alvarez stepped forward from the shadows, badge in hand.
Taryn Holt, we have a warrant for identity theft and fraud. Gasps exploded louder than the fireworks in the distance. Would you have let police handle it quietly or exposed her in front of everyone? Drop your take below. Alvarez held up a leather-bound book, Maya's journal, pages marked with sticky notes, corners dog-eared, details copied into Taryn's act. Neighbors shook their heads in disbelief. Some cried, others muttered in anger. But before Alvarez could cuff her, something unexpected happened. Her purse buzzed. A burner phone screen lit up. The text preview was clear as day. Stop, we had a deal. -R. The crowd erupted again, questions flying. Who's R? Someone shouted. What deal? Taryn's eyes darted, panicked. She bolted toward the driveway, her scarf falling from her neck. She sprinted for her car, but neighbors, people who'd trusted her, welcomed her, stepped in. One blocked the driver's door, another yanked her keys away. Fireworks exploded overhead, red, white, and blue. And in the middle of it all, Taryn Holt, once Maya's best friend, stood cornered, shaking, exposed. Detective Alvarez grabbed the phone, scrolling quickly. She showed me the message. There's a second player, she said quietly. Her eyes met mine, steady and sharp. There's someone else behind this. R. Who? I thought the nightmare was over. But the truth was bigger than Taryn, because if she had a partner, someone still out there, then Maya's story wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. She wore my wife's smile, stole her life, and even planned with someone else. But who is R? And what was the deal? Subscribe to Heat Stories right now because Chapter 7 reveals the witness in the canyon who finally told the truth.
I thought the fireworks ended everything, but it turned out they only lit the fuse for the real explosion. Because Taryn wasn't working alone. She had someone behind her, someone who knew how to make a person disappear without leaving a trace. That someone had a name, Rhett Malloy. Detective Alvarez dug fast. She traced the burner phone number, cross-checked records, and within days, she had him. Rhett was a former EMT in Travis County, fired years earlier for misconduct, known around bars for running side hustles, unofficial jobs where cash changed hands and rules didn't apply. When they brought him in, he didn't look like a mastermind. He looked tired. Scruffy beard, nervous eyes, shoulders slumped like a man already carrying too many secrets. Alvarez leaned across the table. You helped stage a drowning at Lake Travis? He didn't even deny it. Yeah, he muttered. I showed her how. The tire tracks, the 911 script, where to drop belongings. She paid me cash. I felt my stomach turn. You saw my wife? I asked, my voice low. Rhett shook his head. Never saw her, never saw a body. Just gave her the checklist. Do you think Rhett should face the same punishment as Taryn for helping stage it, even if he never touched Maya? Comment your verdict below.
Courtrooms are strange places. They're meant to be about truth, but most days, they're about arguments. Who can spin a story tighter? Who can stand taller in front of 12 strangers? But for me, sitting at that long wooden table in Travis County Courthouse, it wasn't about arguments. It was about survival. It was about justice for Maya, for Kiera, for everything stolen from us. The room was packed. Reporters scribbled in notepads. Neighbors who once cheered beside Taryn now sat in stiff silence, waiting to hear the details. Taryn sat across the aisle in a navy blazer, her hair tied back neatly, like she thought a clean look could erase the dirt on her soul. Rhett Malloy slouched at the defense witness table, avoiding eye contact with everyone. And then there was Kiera. Small, brave, holding Maya's hand with her chin lifted higher than I'd ever seen. The trial opened with ADA Nikhil Patel's steady voice. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is not about grief confusion. It's about calculated theft. A woman faked her best friend's death, claimed her identity, and nearly destroyed a family. And the evidence will prove it. One by one, the pieces fell into place. The ER blood type slip, the Polaroid photo, the trail cam image. Rhett's testimony sealed it further. She paid me to make it look like a drowning, he admitted, eyes downcast. I never saw the victim. I just staged the scene. The jury scribbled furiously. Do you believe accomplices like Rhett deserve lighter sentences for testifying, or should they face full punishment? Comment your opinion below. But nothing cut deeper than Kiera's voice. When she took the stand, the room went still. She clutched her teddy bear, her feet not even reaching the floor. The bailiff swore her in gently, and ADA Patel crouched to her eye level. Kiera, can you tell us what you remember about living with Taryn? Her voice trembled at first, but then it grew stronger. She told me if I didn't clean the floor right, she'd tell Daddy what happened by the lake. She wore Mommy's bracelet, but Mommy never wore jewelry when she cleaned. She sang the song wrong at bedtime. She scared me. A juror wiped a tear. Another shook his head in disbelief. I gripped Maya's hand until my knuckles turned white. Our little girl had just spoken the truth the world needed to hear. The defense tried to spin it. She was grieving, confused. She believed she was helping, Taryn's lawyer argued. But Patel stood tall. This was not confusion. It was fraud. It was obsession. It was a deliberate attempt to erase Maya Brooks and replace her with a copy. He paused, letting the silence weigh heavy. And she would have gotten away with it, if not for the courage of a 6-year-old and the details she couldn't fake. When the jury filed out to deliberate, the room buzzed with whispers. My heart thudded louder than anything else. Minutes dragged into hours, and then they returned. The foreman stood, paper trembling in his hand. On the charge of identity theft, guilty. On the charge of child endangerment, guilty. On the charge of attempted murder, guilty. Each word was a hammer, driving nails into the coffin of Taryn Holt's lies. Taryn's face crumbled. She muttered something under her breath, her hands trembling as deputies closed in. The judge's voice boomed. Sentenced to state prison, maximum term allowed. I felt my chest loosen for the first time in months. Justice. Finally. Do you think prison is enough for someone who tried to steal another woman's life, or should the sentence have been harsher? Share your thoughts below. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, microphones shoved in my face. How does it feel to finally have justice? I didn't give them a soundbite. I knelt down to Kiera's level and whispered, "We're safe." That was all that mattered. Life after trial wasn't perfect. Healing never is. Maya began volunteering at a support group for families dealing with coercive control. She wanted to help others see the signs she had missed. I downsized my design shop, moved us into a smaller home off South First. We planted white roses in the yard, Kiera's idea. Every morning, I watered them and thought of Maya's strength, Kiera's courage, and the fragility of trust. The Polaroid found a frame on Kiera's nightstand, not as a reminder of fear, but proof that clues matter, that even the smallest detail can save a life. And little by little, our home filled with laughter again. 1 year later, we stood at Zilker Park under a sky lit with fireworks. Kiera hummed softly, the right lullaby this time, the notes rising above the crackle of the crowd. Maya slipped her arm around my waist, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed we could move forward. Not forget, never forget, but move forward. Some stories end in tragedy. Ours ended in truth. And in that truth, we found something stronger than fear. Something even obsession couldn't kill. We found healing. A stolen identity, a staged death, a child's courage, and justice finally served. If you believe every family deserves to be safe from lies like this, subscribe to Heat Stories right now, because the next story may hold a twist you never saw coming.